As we launch the celebration of the 500 years of Christianity, I would like to share with you answers to 3 questions related to this event. First is, where was the first Mass in the Philippines held? If you were born in the 1950s till the present, you will probably say that the first Mass was held in Limasawa. But actually, there are 5 claimants to the real venue of the first Mass. The first is Masao in Butuan, Mindanao. For more than 300 years, Filipinos were taught that the first Mass was held in Butuan, Mindanao. In fact, in 1872, a monument was erected near the mouth of Agusan River, which at the time was part of Butuan but now belongs to the municipality of Magallanes. Surprisingly, the date given for the first Mass was April 8, but this was probably an attempt to translate the original date in terms of the Gregorian calendar. The second venue is Limasawa in southern Leyte. Since the late 1800s, there was a shift in scholarship, placing the first Mass in the island of Limasawa, southern Leyte. This was largely because of the availability of the Ambrosian text of the account of Pigafetta, and widely circulated among Filipinos by Blair and Robertson. Blair and Robertson is the editor of the multi-volume work, The Philippine Islands, 55 volumes in all. You can find that in big libraries. On June 19, 1960, Congress passed Republic Act 2733, declaring, and I quote, the site of Magallanes, Limasawa Island, the province of Leyte, where the first Mass in the Philippines was held, is hereby declared as a national shrine to commemorate the birth of Christianity in the Philippines. The third suggested venue is Bolinao in Pangasinan. People in Bolinao claim that the first Mass in the Philippines was held there around the year 1324, about 197 years before the coming of Magellan. When you go to the St. James the Great Church in Bolinao, you will see there a commemorative plaque. It is claimed that the Mass was celebrated by Blessed Odoric of Portodoni, an Italian Franciscan missionary. It is claimed that in one of his trips, the ship was nearly capsized by a typhoon, but had landed safely in Bolinao. The fourth is Mazawa in Mindanao. The proponent of this venue is Vicente Calibo de Jesus, who says that Limasawa or Butuan are two false alternatives because Limasawa has no anchorage and Butuan is not an island. He claims that Mazawa is located in what is now barangays Pinamankulan and Bangkasi in Butuan City. However, this theory has never been accepted by the National Historical Institute until now. And the fifth, of course, is Homonhon Island in Eastern Samar. Tomas Gomez, the former press secretary of President Aquino, has been very confident that the first Mass, in fact, the first Masses in the Philippines were held in Homonhon, where Magellan spent about a week. Another proponent is Father Cancius Kobak, a Franciscan missionary who worked in Calbayog City for many years and has written so much about Samar history. And then lately, we have a Bicolano historian, Danilo Herona. He is very much convinced that the first Masses in the Philippines were held in the vicinity of Homonhon. You can read this from his doctoral dissertation, now published as a book on Ferdinand Magellan. So there are 5 claimants to the first Mass in the Philippines. The second question is the celebration of the 500 years of Christianity also the celebration of 500 years of evangelization. It is to be noted that one becomes a Christian through the sacrament of baptism. One is configured to Christ and becomes a member of the church. The year 2021 is the 500th anniversary of the baptism of King Humabon and his wife, and some 800 others. And so we say that this is the 5th centenary of Christianity. But we cannot call this as the 5th centenary of evangelization, because at the time of Magellan, there was no effort to evangelize the natives. In fact, those who were baptized in Cebu reverted to their pagan ways and must have treated the image of Santo Niño as one of their native idols. Father Pedro Valderrama, the only priest who accompanied Magellan, died in Cebu on the same day that Magellan died. Indeed, from the point of view of the Magellan expedition, they came here not to evangelize the pagans, but simply to explore the land of spices, the Moluccas. The expedition wanted to reach the land of spices by sailing westward. By the way, Pedro Valderrama is not an Augustinian. He is a secular priest. He is not a missionary. Evangelization came later. In 1565, when Father Andres de Ordaneta and 4 other Augustinians evangelized the Cebuanos, this is the year which we can call the year of evangelization. They came to Cebu on April 27, 1565, 44 years after Magellan came. Therefore, the 5th centenary of evangelization will be 2065. In fact, in 1965, I was already in the elementary, the Philippines celebrated the 400 years of Christianity, and it was emphasized that that was the beginning of the evangelization of the Philippines. And when you read the account of the events of 1965, you will notice that that was the year when the Catholic Bishops' Conference created the Philippine Mission Society. The reason for this was because Philippines has been evangelized by Europe. After 400 years, it was now the time for the Philippines to reach out to other nations. And last question. When was Eastern Samar evangelized? As I said earlier, Magellan or Pedro de Valderrama did not evangelize Eastern Samar in 1521. So it would not be accurate to say that 2021 is the 500th anniversary of the evangelization of Eastern Samar. It was only after 74 years from the time Magellan came that Eastern Samar was evangelized. The evangelizers were Jesuit fathers. Father Chirino, Pedro Chirino and his companions who were stationed in Bulag and later on in Degami, Leyte. It was Father Alonso Manes who stayed in Bulag. The work covered the area of southern Samar, including Balanghiga, Giwan, and Basay. The eastern portion of Samar Island, formerly called Ibabaw, was evangelized a year later, in 1596, when Father Francisco Otaso, another priest, landed in Tinago in Tarangnan, Samar. From there, they engaged in preaching the gospel to the natives. Later, sometime in 1601, they established a mission center in Palapag, northern Samar, so they could easily visit the settlements in eastern Samar. The towns that were established by the Jesuit fathers through reduction or concentration of population were Bacor, now part of the Dolores River bed, Hubasan, along Ulot River, Canavid River, Tubig, now Taft, Sulat, Borongan, and Borongan. In other words, the province of Eastern Samar was evangelized by two groups. The southern part coming from Dagami, Leyte, and the eastern part coming from Palapag.